Go back. Welcome back to part 2 of this conversation on Fauza's diary. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to part 1 of this conversation with Sadika Kebbi, I would really love for you to go back and listen, because Sadika has shared very important nuggets for you of how she actually has healed from a trauma, seeing her friend being killed, to forgiving, to loving, to serving others, because she believes that in order for us really to fulfill what God has called us here, we have to venture out. If we keep on having those grudges, seeing the differences, seeing our limitations, it's not going to get us anywhere but only into a comfort zone. And in the comfort zone, there is nothing beautiful that comes out from that place. So please go back and listen, and then come back now. Join us on this part 2 of Fauza's diary with my sister friend Sadika. And I love, before we took the commercial break, Sadika said, if you put God first, there is a lot of courage. Sadika, you have walked the talk. You have ventured out in places where most women wouldn't have actually gone in Lebanon. You've helped someone to really hear their own voice, to see their own seed of greatness. You've helped them to water them, to put fertilizer so that it can grow. And here we are, here you are. You know, you started your own foundation, you know, you are helping other people in Lebanon. Sadika, I don't know, I think what you have been doing, it's something so phenomenal that most people actually can be inspired and really learn from. But I want us to talk about your books, right?
Sure.
You have done The Temptation of the Flesh in Madame Bovary and The Awakening. I would love for you to talk a little bit about this book before we go to the next one, and what led you actually put these thoughts together, because there is a reason.
Yes.
And lessons that you have learned in your own life that you felt compelled that other people need to hear, because there is power in telling our stories. What was your work?
Thank you so much, Fauza. This first book was academic, by the way. It's my master thesis, which was published. And my main objective was, why did I choose those two books? Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert and The Awakening, which is an American novel by Kate Chopin. These two novels portray the objectification of the woman. And of course, in this country, this happened in the 18th, 19th century. But I believe that this is still ongoing, but in a different way. It's true we are in 2022, we are in the 21st century, but still people have this look towards women, not all of them, but it still exists. And especially back home. And the woman is always kind of perceived like the mother, the cook, the housewife, but not as a person. What about her? What about this human being that is doing whatever she's doing wholeheartedly, actually? But unfortunately, this is how most of us are brought up in this part of the world. You're the housewives, he is the provider. Whatever he says, try not to anger him, try not to trigger his anger again, try to be submissive, try to be the kind person who can take in and absorb his anger and absorb whatever he's going through, so you'd give him that pleasant life at home. What about me? What about her? So this is still ongoing. And this research I've done about these two books is how these two women were objectified, and they were looked at in a way that they're just a vase, you know, at home, or any other object. And those two women wanted to break out. But the only example they had in front of them at the time were only men. There was no other woman to be inspired by and to follow in her footsteps. And the men around them kind of, they showed them that the way to freedom is to have, sorry, I'm going to be very open about it, is to have sex and to have affairs and to have mistresses.
Yeah.
So they believe that their way to freedom is to have an affair with other men.
Yeah.
And both of them started having these affairs, and they discovered with time that they were treated by their lovers the same they were treated by their husbands. And they reached a dead end where both of them commit suicide at the end of the day. Because they discovered that it wasn't sex that would give them the freedom.
No.
They sought at the time, you know. And by the way, this still happens.
Until today, 2022.
Until today, women are seeking their freedom through sexual adventures. Unfortunately, they're not aware that they can be enough by themselves. They don't need, okay, fine, we need the male. I don't want the males to, I don't want to
run away. No, we need you. Come back here, come back.
Yes, we need each other. We complete each other. I cannot do it without you, and you cannot do it without me. But at a certain point, I am enough as a human being, and I can find satisfaction within myself. I can find growth within myself is if I turn my look inwards. It's not about the outward world, it's about the inward world. So unfortunately, lots of women until nowadays, they don't have this awareness.
Yeah.
And because they're objectified, they look for the materialistic stuff, and they think that this will bring me
fulfill something.
Fulfillment, yes, or satisfaction. Even some of them, it doesn't have to be the sexual adventures. Some of them, it's the brands. I mean, without a Dior bag, I cannot go into society. Without my Chanel outfit, I'm not presentable. And they seek identity through this materialistic world, while identity is something from inside. So this was the purpose of that research and that book.
Yeah, and I think you've said something very important, Sadika, that I don't want us just to brush it off so that we can move on with this conversation. I think the issue, we are living in a broken world, and sometimes we have to keep up with these ideologies of how we have to represent ourselves, or, you know, how we need to show up. Instead of just showing up the way we are, sometimes we are forced, we have to show up the way others think we need to show up. But I think, Sadika, you've mentioned a bit about the identity issues here. And I think when you know that God has created you fully, perfectly, you're enough, you know, you don't need any other validation. You don't need to have sex to get things done.
Exactly.
You know, you don't need to go out of your way to get things done. But sadly, sometimes our counterpart men, they actually use that for their own advantage. You know, because when they know that they can get away with that, they're gonna use it for their own. I think it's just for their own pleasure, you know. And that's why we need to know, as women, I'll speak for women now, we need to know, where do we draw the line? Do we have to get in the mud so that we can get things done? Or do we just have to show up and still get things done? Where are we? Where are you? I'm gonna ask everybody who is listening to us now, do you find yourself mirrored in the mud? just because you want to elevate yourself, you know, or you want to climb the ladder. It looks easy, but there is a danger. And what Sadika says, those ladies, you know, in her research, she found out that even after all those things, they committed suicide. Why? Because they didn't get the satisfaction of life. And that is why we need to put God first, Uncle George said.
Yes.
Because if you put God first, Sadika, you don't have to worry about all these other things.
So true. So true. You just have to trust in him, you know, and he will lead you to the right path. Just trust in him. That's all we, yeah.
I think women, we have a lot of work still to do. There is a lot that
I guess all humanity needs a lot of work to do because, you know, it's the upbringing. We're still raising generations after generations, whether females or males, on the same mindset. I mean, it's still the same mindset in the majority.
Yeah.
Okay. Women are for these and for this and such roles. Men are for this and such roles. So we're not talking humans all the time. We're talking gender. By the way, we should get over that. I mean, we're all human beings. We have same rights. I mean, whatever goes for you goes for her. Yeah. And unfortunately, still in the households, males are raised in a way and females are raised in a different way. And yeah, this needs time. I mean, it really needs.
I'm still hopeful that something will happen. Yeah, because I grew up myself in, you're a girl, you can do this. There was more I couldn't not do than what I could not do was quite a lot than what I could do, you know, as a girl. And now God gave me a son. I have a boy, you know, and I'm teaching Jasper how to cook, you know, I'm teaching Jasper how to clean. I'm teaching Jasper how to, because hello, it's not only women who have to do that. My husband cooks, he does, you know, he vacuums, he does all these things. So I don't think some of these things, they have to have been with gender-based or, you know, this and that. I don't think so. But as you say, it also depends where we come from, you know, how we've been raised and all that. And I always believe that we now have to draw the line and see how far can we go with certain things, especially the cultural things that we have to follow certain things and all that. So I think that's, we are work in progress. We are work in progress, and humanity will be restored in one way or another. Above all, God is the supreme, you know, he's sovereign. So I believe that he sees everything and he's just, he's a just God.
So true. And there is something I want to mention here. We are created dignified human beings. We have dignity. I mean, once you are born into that world, they try to destroy your dignity and they try to destroy that self-esteem we are born with. And especially when it comes to women, you know? So at some point you lose your dignity, you lose your identity, you are at a total loss, and either you go into a depression, either you commit suicide, either you get lost, you don't know how to find your way. And this is affecting the future generation, by the way. And let me here mention something. I'm sorry to mention this, but mostly on social media, those influencers are giving the right image, the right picture, the wrong, I was saying right. Those influencers are I mean, I heard like 2 days ago, there's a 19-year-old influencer, I forgot the name, but he, through an overdose, he lost his life. I mean, an influencer shouldn't be going through what he's going through. And it's always the wrong projection. It's the distorted image that is being projected. Let's be honest. I myself sometimes fix my picture. I mean, I do some, you know, I don't want the wrinkles to show. I don't want my, I'm kind of advertising the wrong image. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, we're falling in that trap.
yes, Sadika, I think social media is a great tool. That's why we can do these things, create awareness, what you are doing, people can see. But I
Exactly.
think we need to be aware of how much damage actually it has actually been, especially to the younger generation. You
Yes.
know, girls, they want to look a certain way because of this, because of that. Boys, the same. They want to fit in, and you know, I I don't know where we are heading. And sometimes, if we can't have a heart-to-heart conversation with our teenagers, our preteens, you know, and this generation, I think they are struggling. They are
Yes.
struggling because they want to be like the influencers, and they cannot. And you can't be anyone else. You can only be who God has created you to be. And that's where we go back to the issue of identity, Sadika, because if you don't know that you belong to God, that you're a child of God, that God has created you perfectly, fully enough, that's when you need other things to fix us. But
Yes.
even with us, these other things, they don't make us perfect.
Yeah, that's so true.
So how far can we go? I always ask this question. Even sometimes when I blog, I talk about it. How far do you go with your social media? Because sometimes we see chapter 10 of other people's lives while we have just started, we're in chapter 1. And can you imagine comparing reading a book, someone who is already in page 100, you're in page 10? The level of understanding of the storyline will not be the same.
True.
Because he or she has already gone, you know, 99 other pages while you have just done page 1.
Yes.
So we need to be careful. We need to tell our children these things, that not all glitters is gold. No.
And also something very important parents should stop doing is comparing.
Yeah.
I mean, only comparison should be comparing yourself yesterday to yourself today. That's the only comparison you should be doing. But unfortunately, from day one, parents start like, oh, your friend got a 90 on his math test. How come you got an 85? Or you got an...
Because I'm not my friend.
Yeah.
Like, how can you even compare two heads together? I know that because I went through that myself, Sadika. And it's the most painful thing to go through, because some people, they just get it one time. Some of us, we had to pray, to intercede, maybe even to fast before you get some things that I'm telling you, we are all uniquely created for a reason.
Yes, and this is what parents should be doing with their kids. Pinpoint their uniqueness, highlight their uniqueness, and never ever compare them to anybody, because they will destroy them. It's just destructive.
Let's talk about the hidden face of Scheherazade.
Yes. Well, this is a compilation of 20 short stories that took place in an underprivileged area in Lebanon, in North Lebanon in particular. It's known as Bib Tibane. In English, it's the Milky Way, by the way. And it's an under poverty line area by United Nations statistics. In 2010, it was declared the most underprivileged in the Middle East. So I have built kind of bonds with the people in the area, especially women. And with listening to their pain and suffering, I just, in this book, depicted the story as is. I mean, there's no solution. There is nothing happy about those stories. It is real life depiction. And exactly as it happened, I only changed the names. And I was asked by them if I were to write the book to keep it in English, never translate in Arabic, because just to keep them not unidentified in some way or another. And I wanted those stories out just as a slap in the face of society, because you could hear some Lebanese from certain social backgrounds say, this never happens in my country. It happens only in the West. No, it's not true. Everything happens everywhere. I mean, it's not only the ghetto, it's not only Harlem, it's not only in Africa, it's not only in Asia, it's everywhere. But the society, unfortunately, wants to keep that blind eye, and they don't want to see what is happening on the ground.
They choose not to see.
Exactly, they choose not to see. Leave us in peace. I don't want to know about these stories. I don't want to know about these people. But if you really want to uplift your country, if you want to uplift your society, if you want to upgrade humanity, you have to be there for these people, because this is where change happens. This is where transformation happens.
Yeah.
If you really want to transform.
Yeah.
And it's not about education and having certificates from universities and having, I don't know, certificates from prominent leaders and stuff. No, it's about the people. It's about serving those people who are in need. It's about giving them this helping hand and pulling them out of their mud pit. This is how everything improves in life. But staying in your own castle and shutting this eye, you don't want to see what's happening around you, this will not take you anywhere.
Sometimes I think we live lies.
Oh, definitely.
You know, and I say so because just because your life is okay, and then you start walking around putting your nose in the air because you choose not to see what's really is happening, what really the problems are. Where are we failing as human beings?
We are, in many ways. But as you said, there's always hope.
Yeah, I'm still hopeful. I am hopeful.
Yeah, if you can change the thoughts of one person, it's enough to create a ripple effect, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and slowly this ripple effect will grow at some point. So we should never give up on anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the people who need us. It's, you know, it's not the person who is already in the church praying, or the person in the mosque praying, or the person who already has found everything in his life. It's about the other that completes the puzzle. I mean, we complete each other.
And most of the time, the people who they complete the puzzles are the ones that they are neglected.
Yes, it's so true, because we need each other. I mean, also something I want to address the parents now. The parents always focus on the weaknesses of their kids. And they think that working on that, they will help them become better human beings, or better skilled people, or whatever. As it's totally the opposite. Focusing on the strength.
Yeah.
Why did God create you, Fauza? And why did God create me? Because if He would put us together, we complete each other. And for the parents, it's always about competition and this mindset of competition. For God's sake, forget about this. Fauza has something I don't have.
I want
this
it.
Is why we are here.
Yes.
Okay, and it's the same for the rest of the people. As you said, we are unique. And if we don't bring our uniqueness to the table, we cannot complete that beautiful tapestry God created.
Absolutely.
I mean, the puzzle will always be missing.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And I think looking at where you come from, how far you have gotten, Sadika, the work that you are doing back home, even if you live in Dubai, you haven't just neglected because your life is beautiful. You wouldn't just say, I'm now safe, peaceful in my castle, and haliwali, you still go back and serve, and because of that, As Martin Luther King, I keep saying, service brings significance. I don't think we were born to be famous, Sadika. I don't believe that. I think we were born to fulfill something greater than just fame, honestly. And when I see you now, you know, you've done work with, you know, with John Maxwell, you know, you are training, you are doing this, you are doing all these things. Had you not honored, you know, your calling, you know, and go beyond the fears, you know, the prejudices and all that, you know, insecurity of, you know, that place is not safe, you know, you pushed the boundaries, we wouldn't have been having this conversation today. I don't know. And I want us to talk a bit about your work with John Maxwell, you know, because I think that's the cherry on top of everything.
Yes. Well, I joined the Maxwell team in 2017. Uh, just to go a bit in my career background, I started as a teacher in the elementary school and slowly reached high school and then university. I taught courses there. But I'm a people-oriented person and I love people so much and I love serving people a lot. So at some point when I was teaching at the university, I get on LinkedIn a message from a company back home asking for a part-time trainer in communication skills. And they approached me. I had the interview and I was given an option here, whether to continue as a full-time trainer or stay as an instructor at the university. So after a bit of thought, I said, in training, I can reach more people. I can get my message out there more efficiently. And I opted to switch careers. And while giving the training, I started building on my skills as a trainer, taking different certifications, whether emotional intelligence, speaking, and all this stuff. And I stumbled on the internet. I was looking for the best leadership training. I stumbled on John Maxwell. So I emailed them and they replied back. We had a phone call and here I was. I joined the team. And the first time I went to the States, Orlando, to get my certification, I was kind of stood out in the audience because of my physical attire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, John comes from a priesthood background. He used to be a priest in a church. And then also, it's very similar to my journey because he told himself, the church is too small for me. I need to reach out to more people. This is his story. And this is how he chose to leave the church and start his own team, do his leadership training. And those leadership trainings, by the way, the base are Jesus.
Yeah, it's the Bible.
Yes, he took all the traits of Jesus and he, this was the base of his leadership training. And I knew that perfectly well because I do my research before I venture into anything. So the first time I was there, and John begins his conferences with a mass. So he always starts with a prayer to have a good training, to have a good conference, to have whatever. I mean, he gives it to God, if you want, in some way or another. So this was also in common between me and him, holding God in our heart and serving others and making business at the same time, because you need the money to keep going. So
yes, you need money to help the women.
You need it. Unfortunately, we cannot do it without, So I walked into the mass and everybody was like, they had this astonished look on their faces. And once it was done, many came to me and they were like, where are you from? And I tell them I'm Lebanese. And they say, did you come alone? And I was, yes, I came alone here. And the next question was, aren't you afraid to be here on your own with a different culture, different people, different religious background, all this stuff? And my answer was, people of faith don't fear people of faith. And literally, Fauza, everybody was crying. They had tears in their eyes. So again, I say, when you have God or you hold God in your heart, he walks with you in every single room, and there's no fear.
There is no
There's,
fear in God, Sadika. There is no
yeah,
fear in God. Fear comes from the enemy.
it's not even the enemy. It comes from within, I believe.
Because the voices that we have, sometimes we are our own enemies, you know? Because
Yes, we are our own enemies.
yes.
So it comes from within. And it's, as I told you, when you lend an ear to media and to other people's judgment without seeking the truth yourself, you will have your fears all your life.
Yes.
So to overcome them, you have to take, as you mentioned, the comfort zone. You have to take that step outside your comfort zone to find the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and it was an amazing journey, and still an amazing journey with John Maxwell. And he calls himself our Papa, by the way. And he is always there for any of his team members. And he also walks the way and leads the way, like Uncle George did. He's one of those leaders that he doesn't preach, he just does it. And when you see, this is how you learn. And this is another advice for parents. If you want your kids to follow in your footsteps, you have to do, and not only say and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now here you are, Sadika, you know, you've traveled to Costa Rica with John Maxwell, you know, you've been awarded an award as a leader based on the work that you're doing in Lebanon. You are sharing this in TEDx, you know, as a speaker. I mean, hello, who would have thought that 10-year-old, when you saw your friend, the dead body on that bed, out of curiosity, you pulled off the sheet, you know? What I want us to, as we close, Sadika, because I'm sure there is someone who is listening and they see you sitting on the other side and they're like, yeah, you're well, Sadika. I'm happy for you, but I'm still here mirrored in the mud. Of course, sometimes it's because we have our own excuses and the fear of, you know, stagnant. And sometimes the worst enemy is actually procrastination. But I want you to speak to someone, especially Sadika, a 10-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, teenagers, I don't know, someone who is somewhere where you were before the encounter with Uncle George and your Bible. What
Yes.
can you tell them? Because
Well,
it's easier said than done. I mean, after
yes.
all, we are human beings. Even Jesus had emotion, you know. When Lazarus died, he wept, he cried. You know, you cried, you wept for your friend, you know, and you couldn't understand why would they kill them just because of our differences in religion. There will be someone somewhere. It doesn't have to be religion. It could be, you know, family issues. It could be cultural issues. It could be anything, because we are living in a broken world, Sadika. What could you speak to that person? What can you tell them?
It is a broken world, unfortunately. I would like to start with this quote. I forgot who said it, by the way, but you reminded me of it. It's pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. We all experience pain, all of us. There is not one single human being who hasn't gone through pain. And from the beginning, believe me, from the beginning, whether it's this pain comes from the parents, it comes from school, from bullies, from a certain teacher, from a certain classmate, from a certain colleague in the future, in the workplace, and whatever life can throw in your face. This pain exists for each and every one of us. Of course, it's relative, depending on the experience. But believe me that the emotions and feelings are the same. When we say sadness is the same for me and for Fauza. It's the same for me and any other person on this planet. But at a certain point, I chose to suffer. I'm not going to hide it. We are humans, as you said. Okay, I chose to suffer, and I chose to be in that victimization cycle that was never ending.
Yeah.
At some point, there was Uncle George, who was my savior, but Uncle George is no longer here. Uncle George disappeared like almost 15 years now. What have Sadika done all over these years? There were still pain, and pain is still ongoing. But I learned not to give in to that pain. You know, we are allowed to give ourselves this break. And this also John Maxwell teaches it. It's okay to stay down there. If you experience that pain and you experience that collapse, it's okay to stay down there. But while you are down there, do that reflection. Why did this happen? How come I reached that point? Don't shove your mess under the carpet and just stand up and remove the dust, brush the dust away without reflecting on what happened. Stay down there, but don't stay long enough. I mean, usually Maxwell says 3 days are enough for you to stay there, reflect on things, then get up on your feet, move a few meters, and then collapse again. It's fine. As you said, we're human. And I always compare life to the heartbeats. I mean, if your heart is ongoing, what do we say? Pumping blood.
Yeah, if your heart beats, it means yes, there is life in you.
There is life. And how are the heartbeats? They're up and down.
Yes.
All the time. You're dead when it goes straight. Do you want to be dead while you're alive? You want the straight line, staying in your comfort zone? I don't want to face anything. I don't want challenges. I don't want pain. I don't want whatever. This is not alive. So if you want to keep on living and learning, because at every top, there's a learning that is happening. But while you are down there, reflect so you can get the lesson and the message. Because once you get the lesson and the message, your past is a story. It's just a story, and you turn it into a message that you deliver to people who really need to hear that message. You are helping them to get out of their pain. And if you notice, the word message is made of 2 words, mess and age. Okay, so once you go experience a certain mess, at the time of the mess, there's no lesson learned, because you're in the mess and saying, why is this happening to me? Why me out of all people? But once you overcome this, you do your reflection, with age, and that is, if I'm 14 now, let's say, I'm addressing even teenagers. Age doesn't mean you have to be 60 or 70. No, but a year later, or maybe 6 months later, or maybe 1 month later, oh, this happened because I needed to know this, because I needed to learn this. And when you put the word mess and age together, you've got your message. And your past becomes a story, and you're no longer a victim once you have the story and the message. So awareness needs to be risen on that, because many people fall into that trap of victimization and they cannot get over it. I mean, many of us need help. We cannot reach that on our own. Again, for the youth and for the youngsters, if you need help, reach to a parent, reach to a relative, maybe a wise friend, maybe a teacher, maybe even a psychologist or psychiatrist. There's no issue with that. It's not taboo anymore.
Yeah. And it's not a shame.
Yeah, no shame. Just ask for help. Yeah, because all of us need help. All of us need help. So please do it, and don't leave yourself in that pit of mud where you would drown and never know how to get out of it. So the sooner you reach out, the better you will be.
Thank you, Sadika.
Thank you, Maite.
You've said Pain is inevitable.
But suffering is optional.
Pain is inevitable, but suffering
Is optional.
is optional. They have had it.
Yeah. So
Even Jesus said, Sadika, that in this world you will have trouble. Sometimes when I think about it, it's like he was saying, he was saying those words to his disciples, the 12 disciples, that in this world you'll have trouble. But I think he was addressing to the disciples, but even to Fauza years later, that Fauza, in this world you will have trouble. In fact, you don't have to go out to look for trouble. Trouble will come to you, baby girl. But now, the choice you make, that's what will matter.
Exactly.
Because pain is inevitable.
That's so true.
So I think that's a nice closing. Thank you so much, Sadika, for really, really being vulnerable, being authentic, and really sharing your journey. I really believe when we tell our stories, they help us heal. I've seen that with myself. They help us heal, but also they give the other person permission to honor their own stories. So once again, thank you.
You're most welcome. It's my pleasure and honor, Fauza. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yes, and if you are watching, if you're gonna stumble this later, please know that you are not alone in this journey. You are not alone. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Sadika. Her social media handles are below there. Just don't suffer alone in silence. Don't stay below the barrel for a long time, because that's not where you belong. That's not where you belong. Don't stay down there for too long, right? And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share this conversation. You'll just never know who might need this reminder as well. And we'll see you guys soon with another inspiring conversation just like this, right? And stay safe, and see you guys soon. Bye-bye.